Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Goldmoney Asian Rapid. Today is the first day of the finals. We have Aronian and Vladislav Artemiev, and we have Magnus Carlsen and Ding Liren. They are playing for third place. We will look at their games first, and the video is named. I named the video, I'm sorry, not because this is some sort of big YouTuber apology. I didn't do something really bad. But the games ended over 3 hours ago, and I like to make content for you guys promptly after the games end. But today I had a friend visit, and we went running, and actually for the first time in my life, I was able to successfully run for like 30 straight minutes in about 3 miles, and that was a big accomplishment for me. But then I was really tired, so we had to eat, rest, and yeah, it's over 3 hours since the games are done, but here we are. I saw some of you tagging me on Twitter. You were like, I'm waiting for your recap patiently. Some of you wait to go to bed with a Gotham video, so let's go. Pretty short recap for today. Nothing crazy. 2 matches, and Magnus Carlsen kicks things off in game number 1 versus Ding Liren by playing e3 on move 3, which is a little bit unique. Although after knight c6, queen b3, bishop b4, and knight d5, we have like even more unique territory. The move e3 in and of itself wants to play d4. If we had knight c6, if you have knight c6 on move 3 and then knight f3, this is like totally main line. There's really no other choice, because if you play d4, this is now kind of like an exchange French with both pawns traded. This is just nothing special. But even like bishop b4 is probably better. Not to mention that after d4 straight away, like black can also just play bishop b4 on its own. And so Magnus plays queen b3 and just here and delays the development of his knight until now, stopping this move e4. And basically he's just trying to play chess. Ding plays d6. Magnus now backs up to c3. Again, a lot of this looks really strange to the untrained eye. Ding rotates the knight to e7 because he wants to put it here and also mobilize his center pawns. That's exactly what he does. Castles, rook e8. And now this move h6. h6 has a couple of purposes. Number 1, it always prevents anything from coming to g5. Number 2, believe it or not, black actually does want to play the knight to h7. And there's some lines where you even take it to g5, trade like this, and maybe even move your f-pawn. You'll notice in some moves that move actually does happen. And d5 and f5 is on the way, not to mention there might be a bishop move. Magnus plays bishop before targeting this pawn. Ding Liren moves it forward. Magnus Carlsen takes and jumps in and grabs himself a bishop. Helps himself to the bishop on c8, which after 18 moves did not move once. Think about that. You take a piece off the board that you've moved like 5 times, 6 times for a piece that's never moved. That's not supposed to be any good. But now Magnus has actually something to play for here. He has the bishop pair in a totally symmetrical structure. So he plays g3, another waiting move, kind of controlling the knight's movement on this side of the board. Rook c7, bishop f1. Maybe he's going to put the bishop here. Maybe he's going to put it here. This is known as a reroute, kind of maximizing the positioning of a piece by moving it around the board. We have a trade as the queen put pressure on the rook on the c file, and he comes back. This is not a reroute. That's just targeting the center. So we have rook back to e8, and now rook c1, that targets the queen if the bishop ever moves, bishop g2, and Magnus has kind of reached his ideal coordination. Now he plays back to d1 because this pawn is under attack. Maybe he's going to go e4 in the future, maybe d4, maybe a4, a5 as the queen pressures this bishop. So Ding Liren here doesn't like the position. He actually doesn't like it. He tries to solve his problems immediately by playing the move e4. Now, who wants the position to be open? The guy with 2 bishops or the guy with 1? The guy with 2. Pawn takes e4. Pawn takes e4, knight back to d2. With this trade, you've given my bishop on g2 hope, and I'm also targeting this with this bishop, the knight on f6, which I can take and take the center. And now, Ding not only tries to solve his problems tactically, he also tries to solve them very aggressively. This isn't just tactical solving. This is just, I mean, he's going for f2. Magnus has to play the only move, which is rook f1. But by playing e4 and knight g4, Ding has only given himself problems, because now this pawn's going to be very tough to protect. Not to mention, I can always play the move knight c4. Remember I told you this bishop is kind of soft over there? Right, so not only does Ding Liren try to solve his problems aggressively and tactically and all that, he tries to solve them by just straight, like, running Magnus down and sacrificing. And his point is that if takes, well then takes. Yeah, that's really good. And I'm not sure what else he calculated here, because Magnus just played knight to c4, which attacked the bishop and guarded the e3 pawn, and this is not going anywhere. Ding Liren must have thought that by playing knight h3 check takes, he was out of danger. But after knight b6, queen hits this and the rook hits this. And Ding Liren picks up the nearest firearm and points it directly at his toe and fires it. And then resigns. Yeah, I mean, if you go back just a few more... He didn't actually do that. I would... I would hope not. But I mean, in this position, like, white is okay. White has a pleasant position, but there's still so much chess to be played. But then we got e4, the forward lunge, and then Ding just went... I don't know. I guess that's the Magnus effect. That's what you get when you play Magnus Carlsen. Now, they drew their next 2 games. So the score is 2-1, and Ding Liren now must win the final rapid game to tie the match today. And then we play tomorrow. Ding goes for his favorites, the Catalan. This is the Catalan. Knight f3, g3, bishop g2. Black plays knight f6, e6, d5. And now basically the question is Black going to take on c4 or not? Well, that was easy. Queen c2, and white does this in order to take back on c4 like this, bring the rook, bring out the bishop, target the queen side. It's a lot of lines here for black. The main of the main is this move, a6. The point is to meet the move queen c4 with b5, bishop b7, and this is known to be completely fine for black because black just counteracts white's bishop. So what white often does is play a4, and black plays this very mechanical transfer of the bishop to c6 to continue to try to meet this bishop. Now, mainline theory here is like bishop f4 and bishop g5. It's either or. You gotta go like 25 moves deep to get a 0.15 advantage, and it's probably a whole bunch of nothing. But Ding goes here, Magnus targets his bishop immediately, and we actually do get a position that's relatively imbalanced. So black plays a5 with the purpose of getting this knight to securely guard b4 and just occupy it. White plays knight c3 to play e4 and d5, maybe knight e5. So let's play chess. Bishop d5, and actually we trade. Why would you do this? Like, why would you trade into this position? Well, white is just better here. White's bishop has much better prospects, as black's bishop will never be able to break through the center. But Magnus plays this and tries to create some fun stuff here on the queen side. Like, if you play queen b7 here, then after this, your queen is... It's not that it's trapped, but it's forced to shuffle and repeat. So Ding Liren doesn't want that and instead plays this move. And now we will proceed now to have a lot of pieces fly off the board. Are you ready? Rook b6, queen d5, bishop d5, bishop e5, de5, rook b2, rook b1, rook b1, rook b1, b6. So what has happened? Both sides have 6 pawns. It's bishop for knight. Black has 3 pawns versus 1, yet none of those pawns can move forward. Well, this one did, but now none of them can. And white has a majority of pawns over here. So white's got this right triangle of 5 versus 3. Now, how is white going to try to win this game? By creating a pass pawn and making it over here. And also winning these pawns if that option becomes available. How is black going to try to not lose this game? By, number 1, preventing that plan, and number 2, creating counterplay with the queenside majority. So we have rook to d8, e4, very strong move. Now here you would love to play something like this, except that move is idiotic, because for one move of attacking my bishop, you've now irreparably damaged your structure, you will lose all 3 pawns, you will lose the game, you will lose your sense of happiness. So instead of that, we have knight a6 and knight c5, and a few moves later, actually, Ding Liren just gave him this pawn. Like king g2, rook c8, like he just brought his king. He was like, come and take my pawn, come and take my pawn. Look, brings his king, and finally Magnus is like, all right, I'll take. Okay, e6. The second he gives me control, I'm going to try to make it through. Now, he didn't take because that would allow a check in the blunder of the c6 pawn. So instead of that, he does this and allows this. And we have everything that I said. I mean, it's either Ding Liren makes it down the middle of the board and makes a queen, or he doesn't. So b4, b3. He's all in. Rook c7. Now, in this position, there is a move. There is another way to protect this pawn. There are 2 other ways, bishop c4 and bishop h5, beyond rook c7. Rook c7 keeps the balance. One of the bishop moves wins the game. +5. Very tough to see the idea. I mean, when you see the computer say it, it's easy to be like, oh, well, of course. But the move is bishop h5. Do you know why it's bishop h5? Because if b2... the absolutely ludicrous move, rook e6, and you allow a queen, but you win. It's incredible. And if black ever plays a move like bishop h5, g6, to try to get you to, you actually can do this. King g7 attacks your bishop, and you are just in time with all of your pawns. So for example, your bishop now covers the promotion square, which is so hard to see. And then you have e6, disconnecting the defense of the rook. But if this, then e7 comes with a check, and then you would win the rook, make a queen, and you're a step ahead of black. So Ding Liren had to find bishop h5 with this idea. Instead, he does this, and now Magnus Carlsen, quite briefly, is back into the game right until this moment, when somewhere around here, bishop h5 was possible again. It might have been here. Rook c7, b2, not here. Right here, he could have played bishop h5 again. The same idea to just control e8. But instead of that, he played this, inviting this trade, and yeah, white is still playing this potentially for a victory because he has more pawns, but Magnus is quick with the counterplay. g5 is the only move that holds a draw there, by the way. So for example, if you bring your king, then I go here, 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 and I'm just 2 pawns up in an endgame. So you have to lash out with g5, which destabilizes my structure as the white king tries to walk over and win the pawn. And rook e3 is very timely lateral defense, forcing the king to move, takes, rook e4. We try to repeat, okay, no repetition, but now I can bring my king. Now Ding Liren plays f5, sacrificing a pawn. If you take, the pawn runs, you can't stop it. Magnus clutches ever, still the pawns can't move, e6, king f6, and now I've blockaded them the right way. Because in this position, you're not going to blockade the pawns the right way like this, if right, with e6 coming. So instead, he goes back to f7, and he blockades like this. h4, h5, Ding Liren desperately looking for a way forward. He's got no way forward, and he takes finally, but now I can take on f5. And you say, wait a minute. Well, hold on a minute. Why didn't he take here? Yeah, it could have. But now we get this, and well, Ding Liren tried his best. But at least the game ends on the 69th move. It's a nice move count, and 2.5. Magnus Carlsen wins today. Wow, Ding Liren came so close. I mean, that was a vintage Catalan, just non-stop nagging pressure. One side trying to beat the other down and torture the other with a light squared bishop, and just came up short. What to say? Oh, I just realized my scoreboard is a little bit too big because of the pieces. There we go. Let me just adjust that. Some on-the-fly editing here. And now we go to our main event of the evening. Now, the first game between Vladislav Artemiev and Levon Aronian ended in a more or less effortless draw. So this is game number 2. Now, in game number 2, we got knight f3, d5, and this is black's attempt at trying to play a position of total symmetry, like this. That's why black plays g6. Now, here there's a way for white to immediately create imbalance. c4 is a very interesting move. Black takes, and white plays knight a3, looking to regain the pawn with a weird knight maneuver. Now, personally, I like to play knight c6 here with black and just put this pawn in the center. So go like d3, e5. I like these positions a lot. Levon decides to play c5 first and then knight c6. The difference is that the queen has a little bit more mobility. This is like another way to fight for the center. But when you play the move c5, it's highly unlikely that you will also play e5 because your light squared complex is very weak. And also, your pawn here is just a target for my rook and my bishop. So that is the positive and the negative of playing the move c5. You are unable to then take the center space with the e-pawn. Okay, I mean, you don't block your bishop, for example. You can fight and gain space with knight c6 and b5. So we have all of that, and we have bishop e3. Bishop e3 is a very annoying move. Actually, I think already bishop d7 was something strange. I mean, I think knight f6 and just castling, but this is again the whole drawback of playing c5 right away. There's some lines here where you get very tactical. You just allow bishop takes c5 because you have queen a5 check in a lot of these positions. Excuse me. No, you don't have queen a5 check. Maybe you can go b5 and then queen a5 to kick the knight out. But queen a5 check, my god. See, that's why I shouldn't make videos after running 3 miles. What was I even thinking? I think I might have skipped ahead to this in my brain. Yes, I think this is in my brain what I was thinking about. So bishop takes b2, knight b2, and queen a5. Because you deflect the knight away from the a5 square, and then you win back the bishop. And like, the material is equal, but white is definitely better here because of still light squared bishop, rook c1, more center pawns. Position is very pleasant for white. Wow, I can't believe I just hung a queen in one move in a recap. You're welcome. D4. It's a very decent move here. D4 is basically Artemiev trying to attack Levon before he gets settled. Artemiev is already much better. In fact, in this position, Artemiev is completely winning on move 10. He had to play this. This move threatens a couple of things. Number one, it threatens knight takes not knight takes d6, but knight d6, and then obviously knight takes d6. So for example, if black just naturally develops, you go here. You sacrifice the knight, you get the rook, and you would think that black gets 2 knights so that black is happy. No, 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 no. Because black is now unable to castle, it's an avalanche of problems, and black is lost. But instead of that, Artemiev played a little bit too slowly and allowed Aronian to castle. And still, Artemiev had pressure throughout this game. I mean, he created like a really nice position. And you know, look at this queen maneuver to the edge of the board with long-range power here. Artemiev is a very interesting player. And then he's also very gifted tactically. Knight f7. Look at that. Bishop d4, queen d4, king f7. He spots this little geometric motif with the king and the bishop. And, well, Artemiev is just completely winning here. I mean, he's up a pawn in an endgame with bishop versus knight. This is an isolated pawn target. Very, very, very good endgame. Now, a5 played, queen centralizes, king goes out of the pin. g4, h6, h4. This is Artemiev trying to make progress down the side of the board. And now the big decision. Do you trade queens? Is this a winning endgame? He chooses yes. Plays king to g2, g5. Pawn, king moves up to g3. He does this so that this pawn stays isolated, because if he actually takes on g5, this might be a little bit rushed and give black a good center control, or control of that side of the board. So king g3, king g7. And now we wait, and now we take. We take because this pawn is now in the line of sight of our bishop. f4. But the move f4 allows a check and allows the knight to plant itself among white's pieces. And if you take on g5 as Artemiev does in the game, then king g6, and somehow black is like still alive despite being 2 pawns down. Bishop e4, king e5, a4. All Levon needs to do is create counterplay with 1 pawn. As the time ticks lower, this is going to get very annoying for white to defend because black is going to move and push the pawn. So now king to d4, a3, and now the question is, where do you move your king? Do you go to c4 or d3? 50-50 chance. You guessed wrong. King c4. But Gotham, I said that. Well, then you guessed right. King c4 is what Aronian played. And after knight c1, it's just a draw. You had to go king d3. Why? Now if knight c1, king c2 is the big difference. You attack the knight. If a2, king b2, you're just in time. However, if the knight were to go to b4 check, which is the other idea, then after king c3, a2, king b2, you're just in time again. So why is this wrong? Well, after this, black is not going to play a2. Black is going to go this way. And now you have a problem. Because if you go there, now I go here, and you can't take me. Because I would have knight c3. And if this, I still have knight c3 attacking your bishop. And now you move, and I'm just in time to run away and take the remainder of your pawns. Because your king is too far. So e4, knight e3, he gets 1 pawn. Now he comes back, and he gets that pawn too. And a few moves later, he gets the 3rd pawn. And Levon has saved a dead lost position. This is very important. Because Artemiev, it's 1-1, now has to defend. And this is where it gets tough, because now Artemiev's got the black pieces. And he's coming off a game, and all the momentum shifts. And this reverse London is what he played in the first game. And actually, he got a pretty decent position. They had to draw in like 20 moves, so it was a total success. Now, Aronian might come prepared if you play the Baltic defense. So we have an early knight h4, which is a critical line. I mean, this is the advantage of when white plays a setup and black tries to play the London. White can play this knight outflanking idea to try to win that London bishop. You can also do this if you play black versus the London. Bishop g6, and now we stay patient. We stay patient. Finally, when we are ready, we're going to take. Now, this position with the knight on c6, blocking your own c-pawn, white has the bishop pair, is always going to be a little bit more pleasant for white. To the point that Artemiev decides to give white straight up the bishop pair. Now, folks, do you take back with the queen, the pawn, or the bishop? 33% chance you get it right. Oh, this time you got it right. Bishop takes c3. Very good. Now, they're all actually okay. bc3 is the worst. I mean, you're not in like a terrible position, but black can play knight a5, then b6, rook c8, c5, put something on e4 and c4, and you don't have any advantage. Now, this is a good move because it prevents knight a5, but what it doesn't prevent, of course, is this, but you still have to guard this pawn. So, you don't have enough time to do that. Now I play rook e1, and again, knight e4 is by far the most natural move here. But Artemiev, I don't know if this is tilt or what, but he plays g5. I don't know who he's trying to attack. This man is in no position to attack anybody, so Aronian doesn't need any hesitation. He just prevents knight e4. Queen d6, and he prevents anything from moving to b4. Maybe he'll move his queen back and play b4, b5. That's exactly what we get. And the question still remains, who the hell does Artemiev think he's attacking? Who does he think he's attacking? Rook f3, rook e6. Get out of here. All right, I'm out. And now Aronian's like, bro, what are you doing? Who are you? You got nothing. Rook e8, queen e1. Who do you think you are attacking? Yup. Now the only move here is queen h6. And just get this really ugly endgame where you have two bishops versus two knights. A position like this, rook f7. And if you're wondering why not this, well, rook g3, d5, and black resigns. So that opens up the bishop, of course. So Artemiev plays this. And listen, Aronian has watched the danger levels videos that I made like 5 or 6 times. I mean, he knows that the king is worth more than a bishop, so just rook h3. And after queen f6, in this position, just taking the knight, Artemiev resigned. Artemiev just lost in 25 moves. It's like the worst game that that he played probably in the last week. I mean, this is day 8 of the tournament. He's played a lot of chess. And I suppose he never recovered from that last game. That's just the truth. And he wasn't able to recover for the 4th game either. So Aronian wins 2.5, 1.5. And the last game was not like super interesting. It was another like 25 move draw. Artemiev played some opening, tried to put a little pressure, but was totally unsuccessful. So that second game is where everything changed. Artemiev throwing away that really, really nice position that he had. He experimented twice with the Baltic defense, which is pretty rare. It's rare for black to develop this light squared bishop so early because, as you notice, exactly what happened in this game, your queenside just gets too unstable. And white is able to play this knight maneuver to get your bishop, and I mean, black, this is just not, it's just not a viable weapon at the highest level. It's a totally viable weapon below the highest level, but I don't even like it personally. So, you know, if you're like 2K and below, maybe you can get away with it. But white has very comfortable ways to an advantage. So I don't think Artemiev is going to come back tomorrow and play the Baltic defense. But he also did lose on the first day against Ding Liren, and then he came back and he beat him. So interesting to see how the Goldmoney Asian Rapid plays out tomorrow. I am going to go rest and ice my legs from my run. I hope you all have a wonderful Saturday. Today's Saturday, right? Yes. I hope you all have a wonderful Saturday, Sunday, and I will see you all tomorrow for the conclusion of the event. Peace out. Get out of here.